Let's take a look now at creating and selecting various objects. Back over to our toolbar here, let's just break this down a little bit. You'll see that the various tools are placed into sets. The first set here, these first 4 tools, are all selection tools. Next, in this section here, are all drawing tools. From here we've got tools for editing and various other functions under that. You'll see that the very first tool is the black arrow. This is called our selection tool. You'll see the shortcut there is the V key. You can just push the V key to access that tool. Now we're going to come to these other selection tools later, but think of this tool here as your home base. It's a safe place to go back to all the time. Now I'm going to come down into our drawing tools. We've got a number here that we're going to come back to, including the pen tool, which is the first tool in that set. But we're going to jump down to this one here, the rectangle tool. Now I'm going to choose this tool and come over to my page. To create a rectangle, I simply click and draw. Click and drag to draw out a rectangle, and I've created my first rectangle there. If I click and drag again, I'll create a new rectangle. Click and drag. If I would like to create a rectangle with specific dimensions, then I can simply click once with this tool, and this will pop up an options dialog box for me where I can enter the width and the height and create a shape of specific sizes. Okay, I've created a few shapes here. Let's go back to our selection tool, our home base tool. With this tool, I can click on an object and I can select it. When I have an object selected, I can move it around. And remember, we can work off our page as well. If I would like to select a number of objects at a time, there's a couple of ways I can do this. Firstly, I can click and drag to create a selection over these various objects. Now, note that I don't need to completely cover the objects in order to select them. I simply need to get a little bit of each object inside that selection to have them selected. Now I've got these 3 objects selected, and these objects will now work together. I can grab these objects and move them, but be careful when moving multiple objects together. It's important to grab those objects from one of the objects themselves. Okay, so I can grab from this shape or this shape, but be careful not to click here because I'll simply deselect those objects. So again, to select multiple objects, I can click and drag over them, and now be sure to grab from inside one of those objects in order to move them. Now, another way to select multiple objects is to choose one and then to use the Shift key on my keyboard to add more. So holding Shift and clicking on another object, I add that to my selection. Shift click, Shift click. Now I've got all of these objects selected. Again, be sure to grab from one of the objects in order to move them. And they're my 2 ways of selecting multiple objects.